her my head. Good morning.
Scratch your head. I can't even scratch mine. Look at this.
I know. It's
Jesus, you guys have more hair than I do
I'm
as
like,
usual.
be live. I'm like, let me scratch my head quick.
I've been blessed. I've been blessed with this hair, man.
Oh, come on.
The man has the mane. The man has the mane.
Hey, listen, it's a gift and a curse. I will say that. It's a gift and a curse having hair. All right. It's cool, but then like I also don't want to not have hair. You know what I mean? Like, not saying there's anything against it, but some people look good with a shaved head, right? Like the hitman.
Yeah,
the hitman.
Hey, Israel, you remember when we met Ed first? He had the Johnny Bravo look.
Yes, he did. That hair was this long.
Oh no, it was like
this long.
It was up, and then it was
long.
But listen, man, I was making it happen.
That's true.
It added the height that I needed. That's what it was.
True.
It added the height that I needed.
But let me throw in this quick hype. Buenos dias, everybody.
Yes, we're live. I just posted some
How's
stuff.
everybody doing? Thank God it's Friday. You know what? Thank God it's Real Estate Unwrapped. How's everybody doing out there? And I'm sure we're doing fine as well. I'm having a great week so far. I had a couple of listing appointments I'm looking forward to. Getting some nice little replies on those.
Yeah.
Just put an offer in yesterday as well. I'm having a great time with that as well. Spring is warm, but summer's going to be hotter, and I think my hotness is starting now. So, tell me guys, how's your days coming out? How's it coming on for you guys?
Same thing. Got a new listing, a 3-family house in Kew Gardens, small little co-op in Kew Gardens, helping, putting newer agents from our team into doing open houses.
Nice.
Met with a whole bunch of agents thinking of joining our team. I don't know, the usual stuff.
The usual.
Oh, we had a very interesting networking thing on Thursday at
I think so.
Shalamov's house.
I think so.
Yeah.
It was. I'm still wearing my earplugs for it, but yes, I think so. It was really good.
I thought Israel was gonna get up and let me stop. He's about to get up and punch him right in the neck. What do you mean?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. I'm still feeling it.
Nah, it's all good. It's all good, man. The week has been interesting, man. I'll tell you, we got 5 accepted offers. We had an offer that was submitted, but that one, unfortunately, it was 31 offers on the table, and we were not the lucky winner for that one. But it's all good. We're gonna keep looking. Which tells you
market is hot. Don't listen. Don't listen to the news, guys.
We were in open houses. And there were lines out the wazoo. We got to an open house. Thankfully, I had a lockbox code, but there was already 10 people standing outside of the house. I cut the entire line. I said, this is my VIP clients. I brought them into the house, showed them the property. It was hilarious. But and then outside of that, we got a new listing that just dropped today over in Kew Gardens.
Nice.
It's a smaller 1-bedroom, but it's in Tabalt Apartments. So any investors out there that are interested and looking for something that they can rent out right away, hit me up.
Oh, yeah.
We'll talk.
Cool.
We'll talk. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am looking forward to today. One of the few things. Look, what's great about when we get an accepted offer? Hey Kika.
That's my kid. My number one fan is there. She's like, yeah, Mom. Yeah, you rock.
So every time we actually get an offer accepted, before we hit contract, we always have this one part, especially when it comes to houses or co-ops, we always have this one extra part that we always need to do. And I'm lucky to know this person. I'm happy we have her on today from Inspection Boys. It is an important thing to have, and that's actually having an inspection. So Gigi, why don't you introduce her to us so we can actually bring her on right away?
Yeah. So this is the very dynamic. I'm all about girl power, right? Guys, you know that. I'm like a little bit of a feminist at heart. And this girl is, I have a girl crush. She's super cute. Her personality is like adorable. I love it. She's a go-getter. She's a businesswoman. I just learned she has all those many businesses now. This is like the incomparable Brigitte Malik of the Inspection Boys. And yes, she is a girl. Yes, you go, girl.
Yes.
Hey, guys. How are you?
Yes.
Put Brigitte first.
I will. I'll take care of that. Don't worry. Yes.
How's everybody doing?
Very good.
How are we doing today?
Good. I'm so excited to be on here. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Oh, my God. Yeah. So today we're going to unwrap the inspection, the home inspection. It's always like a bit of a topic of contention. Like some agents are not even pushing having their clients do a home inspection after an offer is accepted, and some do, and some inspectors are great, and I've met some that are not that great. And,
So have I. So have I.
I know. I've seen a guy that just goes like, "All right, we're done," and that's
Yep.
it. And I'm like, okay. It's $600. Okay.
I mean, as long as he or she doesn't kill the deal, I think I'm okay with it. No, I'm kidding. You definitely gotta check the property out and make sure everything is good.
Absolutely.
Welcome,
Absolutely.
Bridget.
It's
Welcome.
a huge liability.
Yeah.
So talk about yourself, Brigitte. Tell us a little bit. I don't think, a lot of us in the industry, I'm sure, some of us in Queens, in Long Island, have the pleasure of working with you. I don't think enough people, because I do, as much as I can, I refer anybody. It's like I even throw out your phone number. It's in my book. I'm like, just call Brigitte. Just go for it. Go
Thank
for
you.
it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So my name is Brigitte with the Inspection Boys, owner of the Inspection Boys. I started in the industry 2014. I used to work in Manhattan. I used to do medical billing out of all things, actually. And my commute was 2 hours every single day. Hated it. Like 2 hours one way and then 2 hours back. So really 4 hours a day. Yeah, it was rough. My bosses were amazing. Absolutely loved them. They taught me a lot that I still use to this day. So it wasn't an issue actually with the job. It was just like the commute.
The lifestyle,
Yeah. And my husband got a job for Long Island Railroad, and all of a sudden we went from, a certain income to all of a sudden his income was what we used to make together. And so I just like he worked for there maybe like 4 months, and once he passed the probation period, I kind of told him like, hey, I really want to quit my job and start my own business. This is kind of what I'm thinking. And God bless my husband, because he was super supportive. He was like, do what you got to do. I come from a family of entrepreneurs. Like my family had very successful businesses in Florida. So I was always around that. And it was always my intent to kind of take over the family businesses and the legacy. But unfortunately, like for whatever reason, things got into the way. All that came crashing down. 2008, when the real estate crisis happened, my family's money was invested in real estate. We used to build high luxury custom houses in South Florida. So when the market crashed, that was all our money that went with it too. So that changed the trajectory of what my plans were. And when I moved to New York, it took a while until I could actually start a business. So that's a short story.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
And currently, right now,
Okay.
you have about how many businesses you said?
About 14.
About 14.
Yeah, the
14.
girl is
That's a
busy,
lot.
huh?
Yeah.
Very
Busy. I
busy.
love it. I
Wow.
love
It didn't
it.
start like that. It's just kind of turned into it over the years.
Gradually,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is awesome.
But that's
I want to
good.
be like
Actually,
you when I
you-
grow up,
yeah.
Bridget.
I'm big. So like, have you guys seen the sweaters that say like cash flow? Right.
No.
So
Ah,
there's
yet.
sweaters or jackets that say that just says like cash flow, right?
cash flow.
So
Let me see. Yeah,
that's
those are yours.
well, it's not mine, but it's kind of like the concept, like you're just trying to build cash flow.
Oh, right. Different streams of income and stuff
Yeah,
like that. So if
Right.
one
exactly.
doesn't work, there is always the next one, which is extremely smart. All right.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Are you investing
Absolutely.
in real estate as well?
So the biggest purchase besides my own house was about 2 years ago. We went partners with a few other people as well, and we bought our building in Smithtown. It's like 5,000
Nice.
square
Yeah.
feet. I was so happy. We put a lot of money into it. We did big renovations to it. So that's a big investment. And right now, I don't want to talk about it too much, but right now, I am trying to learn more about real estate investing too, and trying to get more into that, and and I want to build our real estate portfolio
Cool.
too and start buying stuff. Maybe not in New York though. That's the only
I
thing.
know that's the thing. Maybe not in New York.
A
So I
little too
think
expensive.
we should all. I've been saying. I mean, we need to get a passport and go out to Smithtown. Because for us, it's like a
Come
trek. I
on.
know. It's like we're gonna need to get a whole day of just going
Yo,
out. And I know you're doing
every
great thing
time,
with
every time I see the events that you do, Bridget, and I'm like, man, I map it out, and
I know. It's
I'm in Valley Stream,
It
and
ain't
from
that
Valley,
far.
that's what I say to myself until I put it in the GPS, and it's still 40 minutes out, and I'm just like, yo, what? You know, it's like I got to take a whole day off just to drive out there, but I'm gonna make it
Oh
happen.
my God.
yeah. I
I'm gonna
know.
make it
I
happen.
know.
I
We
want to
I
go.
want
make
to
it
do
happen. I make it
more
happen.
in Queens, Brooklyn.
Yeah.
We've been doing a lot more in Nassau, but
Yeah.
we just need spaces, you know. And then the thing is that we need money. We need bring sponsors in, do all this other stuff. So it takes a lot to run these things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But let's get into this. I mean, let me start by asking this first question. I mean, you know what? Buyers always want to know this question, of course, right? Which is, why is home inspection so important? Why do we need one?
So what's so funny is I consider the home inspection probably the most nerve-wracking and stressful periods of time during the real estate transaction, right? Because
Yeah.
the client is either going to buy the house and go to contract or they're not. And one way or another, they probably are going to blame us if they don't buy it, even though they probably just don't like the house, right? So what I always tell everybody is, especially during the pandemic era, obviously we're not as in that peak anymore. A lot of people were waiving the home inspections, but the biggest issue we found is they would waive the home inspection, buy the house, go into contract,
Mhm.
and then they have this house and then they realize, oh crap, there's so much wrong with it that they didn't know, they didn't budget for it. They went over their head with the pricing of the house because it was such a competitive market.
Mhm.
And so what I tell everybody is like spending a couple $100 for the home inspection is giving you peace of mind of probably one of the biggest investments you're about to do, because now you get to know what's happening in the house before you take ownership, because no matter what, once you own that house, once you close on it, you get the keys, now it's homeowner responsibility. You can't go
Absolutely.
after the seller, you can't go after your agent. You
Right.
made these decisions, you signed this document knowing fully what you were purchasing. So
Come
that's
in,
kind of what I tell everybody, like once you close,
you
this
can come
is
in, but I'm
yours.
busy.
So it's better that you know what you're purchasing and what your investment is, and if there's something that you need to fix, you can budget yourself better. Maybe not at that moment, but you can budget yourself better. And if it really is a big safety issue, now you can communicate with your agent and your real estate lawyer and try to get that negotiated, if that's even a realistic possibility.
Yeah. No, I see what you're saying. I mean, right now it's interesting that you mentioned that because not that we're going into it, but now as I experienced these past couple of days, especially with houses more in Long Island, houses that have space, you know, driveway, backyard,
Mm-hmm.
front yard, fully detached, you know, the usual, the minimum of a 3-bed, 2-bath house. It's like people are standing online, people are trying to look for better terms and conditions, and one of them is, hey, you know what? I'll waive the inspection.
Right.
Right. And it is, you're right. To your point, it's pretty scary, not knowing what you're jumping into. But I think there's ways around it, right? Like you could still kind of say you just want to do an inspection just because you want to know what you're getting yourself into. And I feel like there's like a little window of opportunity there, right? Like guys, I don't know if you agree with me on this, but I would say like if you're gonna go take that route, say, hey, look, it's not, my offer is not contingent on the inspection. However, I do want to do an inspection just so that I know what I'm jumping into. And the key is don't sign the contracts until the inspection is done, because if you do realize that you're jumping into something that's over your head, you haven't signed contracts yet, you could still back out and they won't know that it was because of the inspection.
I rarely work with buyers. I remember working with a client that was a seller of mine. Once he sold this condo, he bought in Rockville Center. And yes, we did 3 home inspections on 3 different offers. And yes, the agent wanted non-inspection contingency. And they're like, cool, let's just do the inspection. I'm like, we might lose like $1,000 or so, a little bit, you know, like, whatever. Like as we were going, I'm like, we might not want that house again. And he goes, no, it's fine. I'd rather see right now, lose $1,000 and get to know what I'm getting into. And we're in that second house, and the inspector is telling us asbestos. So I'm like, oh, but you have to say it's probably asbestos. He goes, no, let me show you this, that pipe, this. I'm like, oh, okay. Talking to the sellers, they never wanted to cure anything. So we're like, do we want? And then there was a tank in in the ground. It looked like, because there was some dead grass around, it looked like there was an issue. We're like, oh man, okay, this, that. A lot of the basement had termite on the beams, and we're like, okay, it's gonna need some work. Do we want this house, or do we want to go into the next? So we went into the next. So on the third inspection, we finally went to contract.
You know what else we noticed too is if people waived the inspection, okay, fine, they waived it, but the appraiser still has to come out, right? So what we noticed too is the appraiser would come out, and the appraiser starts saying, hey, we see all this happening, it has to be fixed, and then that causes an issue, and then all of a sudden they're getting a home inspection because the appraiser brought up all this stuff, and most of the time it was too late.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times they were already too far in the process, So
Very true.
it's I don't recommend waiving it, or if you're waiving it, like Ed was saying, there's ways around it, or how to word yourself too,
Yeah, I mean, a great way. It just said, as said, it's just, I just want an inspection for information only. It's a
And
very
then
simple way of doing that.
this is why I have, and I'm hearing it, and I can't say much because I'm usually on the listing end. I'm hearing the agent, oh, no, we're not going to bring an inspector. The brother-in-law is a contractor. And I'm like,
they're not the same.
Worst.
I know. So this is why I wanted to, as we're going to go along, I just want to tell our audience out there, it is not the same at all. It's not because you're a general contractor. Oh, I got this. Maybe not. Right?
No, definitely. But if you guys are just tuning in, just to give you all a heads up, we are hanging here with Brigitte from Inspection Boys, going through the importance of having an inspection done. So I think Victor had mentioned something here just to kind of touch on it.
Right.
If you're buying a house with a roof free of leaks, appliances working, no termites, electric working, plumbing not leaking, I always recommend an engineer before the closing, if the buyer must have one.
And thank you, Victor, for gracing our presence. Victor is the number 2 or 3 commercial agent in New York, out of our franchise. So the guy is pretty big, and I know he does everything he can for his client. Thank you for being there again, Victor. We love you. All right.
Awesome.
You want to move up to the second question, maybe? It's always, because I'm seeing inspectors, some of them do absolutely nothing, and then you have an inspector that's going to stay like 5 hours in the house and look at inch by inch with a magnifying glass, and it's like, okay, what inspectors do during the visit, and what are the things they won't do?
Yeah, so New York is a licensed law state. So just like real estate agents, you guys all have to have a license, and you have to follow the law, right, of the standards of practice. We have the same, but the standards of practice are very broad, right? So what I always tell everybody is do your due diligence in getting to know that the company you're going to be working with, because you can literally have a company like Gigi was saying before that goes in, they're there for 20 minutes, and they say, hey, inspection's done. But what did they really inspect, right? Standards of practice are vague because it actually says a representative number of outlets that have to be tested. What does that mean? Does that mean every single outlet, or is that just 1 or 2? It doesn't give you a definitive answer. So there's literally companies that go out and just do the minimum standards that the SOPs say. So a home inspection, in my point of view, is there are going to always be limitations. We don't have x-ray vision, but there's certain things we can't see, like behind finished walls or things like that, but we have to do our due diligence. So an average house is going to take anywhere between 2 to 3 hours for an average inspector. And that's an average size house. Like, we're not even talking about mansions. And they're going to be inspecting everything from the exterior, the roof, foundation, electrical, heating, plumbing. but there's limitations. Like some of these guys don't even take off the electrical panel, or some of these guys
Mm.
Yeah.
don't do a good. There's reports I've seen that don't do the justice in the roofs, right? So you really want to do your due diligence. You can ask companies for a copy of a sample report, see what it is that they're actually doing and what they're inspecting, and try to get to know what the company is doing and their protocols too, because there's so many companies. But we have a home inspection school. We see a lot of these reports come back to us. We've gotten 5-page reports. We've got 2-page reports. I can tell you this: if the report is that little, they did not do their due diligence. A normal, regular house is probably going to be anywhere between 50, maybe 70 pages long of a report,
Wow.
and have pictures, right? So,
Wow.
so some things to keep in mind: like the shorter the report does not always mean the better.
Right.
Oh.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I did
that's
not know
All
that.
right.
Me neither.
I figured the shorter the report, the less
less
they
the problem.
found, right?
Right.
Like, all right, cool. This house doesn't have that many issues.
Right.
So
But
and a lot of people think that, but like from a home inspector point of view, and this is what I tell all our inspectors, we have a lot of liability on us,
Mm.
right? So if something goes wrong, like I want to do a thorough inspection, and I want to make sure that we're listing everything, but also like there's no such thing as a perfect house. So every single
Right.
summary page is not going to look the same. Every summary page changes depending on the house condition. Some houses are worse than others. I would assume you guys are very knowledgeable in the field. You guys are going to know when you walk into a house, this house is going to have some issues,
Hmm.
just by looking at it,
Yeah.
how it was maintained, things like that. So, and that's why I tell people too, like there's no such thing as a perfect. The report's going to have things on it. You have to determine, are you okay with these things, and are you okay with budgeting yourself later on to handle these things? Like I just did my outdoor patio, all new pavers. It's beautiful. I waited 6 years to do that. I couldn't do that right away. So it's a good way to know what you have to do in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah. You
That's
guys
really
want to
interesting.
pinch in for
what
the next
Yes.
question if you
real
want
quick
it?
though, before we jump
Yeah.
into the next question. So my question, Bridget, is I know we come across a lot of different inspectors, and sometimes, not always, but sometimes they tend to voice their own opinions and beliefs on what they come across. And I've seen this happen where, for example, they did a home inspection. The windows are outdated, right? They're the original windows. You open the window and it automatically closes by itself, right? I wish I had automatic closing windows, but I have to physically close them myself. But now they find a way to now say, hey, you know what? Yeah, these windows aren't working too well. Maybe you should ask for a credit. Do you feel like it's an inspector's obligation to then tell the buyer, hey, you should ask for a credit if this doesn't work?
No, I do not. Because yes, when we find these windows that start closing, it's a safety issue, right? It could close on somebody's
Mm.
hand. If a kid's head is there, it could really cause potential
Mm,
damage to somebody,
yeah.
or. But we're not there, and that's why I tried. Like we are supposed to be non-biased, and we're hired there to be non-biased, and we're providing this report. If they ask us questions, we will answer them, but we're not supposed to get our opinion involved. Like, hey, would you buy this house? So I say, look, my needs are different than your needs. I'm not that here to make that decision. I'm here to provide you with the information of what's happening with this house, and you can ask me, whatever questions you want regarding this, but I can't make these decisions for you.
Mm.
And I it actually probably is one thing that drives me nuts about our industry is you do have people that do that, and
Wow.
put their personal 2 cents into it.
Yeah, too many agents put also their personal 2 cents into the purchase of buyers and stuff, and it's like, and this is what I'm encountering the most. Like, please don't. It's not because you don't like it that they may not like it, or if it's because it doesn't fit your needs, it might not be the case for the buyers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ed, you want to go over the next question?
We sure can. I'll put it up now. But yeah, so here we go. Let's show this one. So another question: what inspectors do? Oh no, we did that one, didn't we? Yes, we
Yeah,
did.
we did. It's
Sorry,
Yes,
okay.
we did.
these things are moving around for me. So how can homeowners prepare for the inspection?
So I think the more knowledge is power, right? So if you have a seller who wants to put their house for sale, you go into the basement and you see that's a mess, right? Inspectors need access, right? If there's no access to the electrical panel, if there's no access to the HVAC or whatever the case may be, these are things that are going to be disclaimed on the report. And more than likely, the client or the future client is not going to be able to close on the house without those items inspected because they're not going to want to, right? They're going to want to get those things inspected. So making sure that we have clear access to get to all the mechanicals that's needed. There was a client, she lived in New Hyde Park. Her parents had unfortunately had, died, unfortunately. And beautiful house. I loved it. It was so beautiful on the outside. And she goes in and she was like, I want to do this inspection before I do put my house on the market because I want to know what I need to change so that I can prevent people from negotiating back and forth on some of these items. Right. So I was like, sure, no problem. So I'm getting ready. I'm doing the inspection. I go down. I'm getting ready to go down the basement. She goes, you may want to put a mask on. I'm like, okay, like what's up? And she was like, you'll see, just you may want to put on a mask. So all right, I grabbed my mask.
COVID down there?
Yeah, this is pre-COVID. It's right before COVID, actually.
That's where it started. Now I'm just not going.
Right.
Boy.
So I go down and the entire basement is just full of mold. Like, I mean, it is just mold everywhere. And so she's down with me. She put a mask on and she says, yeah, my parents, the whole house is beautiful, but the basement is where they were hoarding all their stuff. And so literally they had the basement so full that the lack of ventilation made all this mold grow. So now she was cleaning up and she was throwing all this stuff away and she didn't realize there was mold until she started getting rid of stuff and she realized she had a big mold issue. So so she fixed everything, like whatever, not everything, but she fixed the most costly items in the house before she put up the home so that she could get top dollar and prevent that haggle of going back and forth and negotiating on all this big stuff. So that's one of the biggest benefits too of a pre-listing inspection, and also just like communicating with your seller about having access to these things to prevent delays in the overall transaction.
Since you brought that up, I do have a question about that. Are your inspection reports different when it comes to doing one for a buyer versus a seller, or are they the same?
They are the same.
Yeah.
Same thing. Because the license law doesn't change.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's factual. That's all it is. Yeah.
Yep. And the price doesn't change either. Like people think it's cheaper. It's still the same type of inspection.
The same work.
Exactly.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Exactly. But you got to remember, when the buyer hires us, the buyer is technically our client legally. So I can't share anything that the buyer doesn't want me to share. So most of the time the sellers don't get it. Whereas if the seller does it, well, now they're the client. So they're privy to only the report and they don't have to, they could do what they want with it. I have to respect whatever it is that they want.
Yeah, I think that's a plus in the sense of if you do get a listing, you should absolutely do a home inspection on it because of those reasons, right? And I think we've heard it and discussed it in the past was if a buyer goes into a property, they're going to believe that the cost of repairing that issue can be anywhere between 3 to 5 times what it actually costs. Yes. Versus if you come in there and you get the report. And I think it's a perk too, because if you have multiple people coming in, it's almost like you can use that at your advantage as a listing agent where you're like, hey, listen, if your buyers are serious, I have an inspection report already that was conducted on the property. If they're serious about it, I can help save them whatever X amount of dollars in doing their own report if they ever thought about making an offer, and they can use this report. But I do think that's definitely something that's very important and useful.
So we had that question further down, but we got it covered. But I think it's important. I'm not saying every single listing you should offer a pre-inspection. And to me, I would offer it into my package, my marketing package, not having the seller having to pay for it. And still the representation would be on the seller. So that's his inspection report. And with his permission, we would be able to share it with the buyers. Yeah. And that's a great way, actually, just shows you so much Like the seller is really like, I'm an open book. Here it is, like, and just bring on the offer, just make a deal. All right.
Oh, wait, real quick. Victor
Yeah.
got a nice question here. Are you ever asked by the buyers, make it sound worse than it is?
Yes, all the
if so,
time.
what's
Oh
your
my
reply?
God! But
All the
isn't that
time.
unethical?
It is. And that's what I
It-
tell them. I said, I'm here to present the facts. I can't lie or over exaggerate something. Like
Wow.
I apologize,
sad.
about that, but I can't do that. But we
Yeah.
also get told by agents all the time too, like,
Oh, no.
hey, leave this out. Don't even put this in the report. And I'm like, I can't. That's completely unethical.
Wow.
Yep.
I can't say
I'm
I've ever
telling
thought
you, we
about
get
that.
put into these
Never thought of that
crazy
either.
situations.
That
That's
is interesting.
crazy. Good question, Victor.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very
Wow.
good question.
Thank you, Victor. That's something I wouldn't even have thought of. I'm like, wow, okay.
Yeah, I
Right.
Yeah.
can't say it crossed my mind either.
But I
So the
can't.
next question, all right, is when you're looking for an inspector, what type of questions should you ask them? What should you kind of go through to make sure you're picking the right inspector?
That's a
So
tough one.
yeah, that's a tough. So ask for a sample report, right?
Can
Google them.
you, even us
Yes,
as agents, can we
yes,
ask for a sample report?
absolutely. If the company is hesitant to give it,
Oh,
I wouldn't use the company, because
Wow.
every company always has a sample report, every reputable company, because we get asked for it. When we do these big high-rise condominium towers in like Manhattan, they ask for sample reports so they could view what it is that we're going to be included in the inspection. Check out their online reviews, see what
yeah.
people are saying on Facebook, things like that. Ask them, actually, one big thing that actually a lot of companies get a little bit scared of is if you ask them, what insurance do you have? Right?
Hmm.
Because
Right.
if they're not carrying the right insurance, God forbid somebody's get hurt, or what if they really miss a big issue and they don't have errors and omissions, they're out of luck,
But
right?
isn't error and omission mandatory?
No, not for the state of New York, not for home inspectors. Only general liability is the only mandatory insurance home inspectors must carry. So and so you want to ask those. Ask them, how fast will you receive the report when it's done?
Mhm.
And also a big thing is how long will the inspection process take, right? So for example, if you have a company, like, so there are some inspectors, like Israel was mentioning, that'll be on a property for 5-8 hours, but it's 1,000 square foot house. Like that's not
Right.
really needed, you know.
Right.
And ask them, how are they inspecting the roofs, right?
Yeah.
Roof is a big thing. And
I
just see how
hope
they
I
sound.
I
hope
think they're
our
gonna.
audience is taking notes out there, because I am.
Uh,
Even
I was-
though we'd had Brigitte in one of our offices here in Jackson Heights not too long ago, but I'm seeing stuff that we didn't have time to discuss. Guys, please review this live again. It's going to be posted ad vitam aeternam. Yes, I speak Latin. And you can watch it over and over, but those are like super important information
Absolutely.
to know. All right,
One thing
let's
is,
go. Yeah,
just ask them how many inspections they do a year.
A year.
A year.
Wow. Okay.
If they do 150 inspections a year, they are part-time. They are not doing a lot of inspections a year. A full-time inspector that knows what they're doing is doing anywhere between 400 to 600 inspections a year.
Speaking of reports, I mean, something you just brought up. How long does it take for a report? Would it be a 24-hour or 48-hour turnaround?
So the state, I want to say, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong. I'd have to check the
Mhm.
website, but I believe the state legally says we have to provide it somewhere between 5 to 7 days.
Okay.
Which, imagine if you're waiting for your report for that long, right? Like, probably the real estate deal might
might
die
fall
Yeah,
apart.
fall
They'll get
apart.
another. They'll get
Couple
we
Yeah.
of
another.
wanted
days,
24 hours. That's how
okay.
fast we wanted.
24 hours is really what you want to get them back at,
Right.
we try to do them that same night, but we guarantee it within 24 hours, because you got to think about it. If an inspector is doing 2 jobs that day, and then they have another 2 jobs the next day, they're going to be really behind. So they try to get them out as fast as possible so that they're not like overwhelmed
I
too.
hope you have great apps to generate reports.
Yeah.
That can really help you. Okay, good. Because
Yeah.
it's like, wow, like for us, even like on the listing presentation, like when you want to do a nice, thorough presentation with stats and stuff, and it takes a while, no matter how experienced you are. So yeah, so I'm glad you do. I'm glad you do. So we talked about the turnaround. So big question now. It's like, since everything is factual, um, what if there are issues shows on the reports, and what are the most common problems you encounter, and how to try to find some examples where the deal doesn't have to die because of certain issues that may look really bad on the report, depending on who reads it.
So I feel like I kind of have an advantage compared to other companies just because I
Yeah.
have certain licenses that others don't.
Let's
So
talk about those licenses before we even get there. So let's see what's the difference, right?
yeah, so like obviously I have my home inspection license.
Yeah.
I also have an asbestos inspector license,
Yeah.
and then I also have my mold assessor's license too.
Mm.
And we're
Wow.
2 or 3K HUD consultants too.
2 or 3K HUD consultant. Guys,
Yeah.
listen to this.
Yeah. And I think some of
That's
the
very
things, like
important.
even you mentioned Gigi before, is about asbestos,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Asbestos comes up a lot because New York is old. So that's always a thing that always comes up. Mold always comes up. Termites. Those are always things that come up. And I think the deal doesn't have to be dead because those things come up. There's a way to go around it and how to fix it if it even needs fixing, right? Like asbestos, 9 times out of 10, if it's in a closet and it's not affecting anybody, it's fine. It could stay there. It could stay there another 100 years and not bother anybody.
Right.
Asbestos only becomes dangerous if it's airborne, you know?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So like old tiles, like sometimes like when you go to, let's say, those neighborhoods, Glen Oaks and stuff, all those GI built homes that were built, or even, I'm not even talking about Levittown or all that, but all those GI built homes that were built, they all had asbestos in their basement, all that tiling and all the stuff. And I still see to this day, you still have some that haven't been cured. So, are those things airborne? I'm just asking stupid questions.
No.
Okay.
If the tile is not friable, that's the magic word. If it's not friable, then it's not airborne. Friable is like if I could take it, try to like make it into a powder in my fingers,
Yeah.
then that's airborne, right? So most of the time, asbestos, if you research, asbestos is a pretty amazing material. It's fire resistant, it's waterproof, it's very good at insulating, it's very good at sound. It's a really incredible material. The
Right.
problem is people weren't using it the right ways, and it's still used to this day. It's not illegal. The government has just limited the amount you can put in materials now.
Wow.
So brakes are car brake pads. That's why it's dangerous to inhale. Those are made out of asbestos, right? So it just depends. Most of the time, people just put floor on top of the tile and do it that way, and then you could do
I
it that
see the
way.
old installations being a problem because it gets brittle.
Yes.
I know I've made the mistake of touching the stuff, because I'm curious. I'll touch anything. And it's like, okay, maybe not a nice idea because once, it starts, you feel it gets like old. Yeah. It starts falling apart and powder is like, oh, all right.
Yeah.
I have a question about that.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, as you mentioned, brakes have asbestos. I actually, in my earlier heydays, I was actually in the automotive industry working on cars. After that, my father he was a plumber. He worked in Manhattan, so he dealt a lot with asbestos. I'm curious to know, and whatever your thoughts on this are, but if there's asbesto insulation wrapped around a pipe, his thought process to this was, it's not a big deal. You get a water bottle, and as you're spraying it, clearly, use a respiratory mask or whatever it is. But with the spray bottle, you can spray it as you're removing it. make
You
sure that
missed it, yeah.
you're misting it correct. And then that's how you kind of remove it, put it in a bag, tie it up,
But
and
do
then
you
get
know
rid
the
of it.
reason why to spray it?
Well, it's just so that it doesn't go airborne. That was
Right.
his.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so the
That was
particles
his.
don't fly around.
It
Yeah,
So
prevents
yeah.
it from going airborne. So New York City has some of the strictest asbestos licensing or asbestos
yeah,
laws in general out of the entire country. In fact, my license is good for everywhere in the state of New York except New York City. So I won't touch asbestos in New York City because they have investigators that go out, they find people, everything,
Oh my
right?
God.
But it's
Mm.
ridiculous. They spend a lot of, but that's because New York City's old, right? They
yeah,
have a lot. New York City is filled with asbestos.
that's true.
So if you ask me as a homeowner, if I find asbestos in my house, I am within my right to remove the asbestos myself and not pay a company. I
Oh,
can
Because they're
do that.
charging you an arm and a leg
They
to do
charge you
that.
a lot of money, but I can do it and do it myself. Now, if I was doing it, I would do it the right way. I'd wear a mask. I'd make sure I'm fully protected. I'm not
Right.
inhaling it. But you can do it as a homeowner. Do I always recommend it? No. If it's a small area, I wouldn't even bat an eye. But if it's a big area, that's when you kind of want to consider having an abatement company do it. It depends on how big it is. You don't want to put your health at risk because asbestos is known to cause a lot, cancer pretty much,
right.
That's very interesting.
So it says Victor Weinberger said University of Phoenix is offering a course on am I showing this? He's offering a course online for asbestos removal. Yeah, but I don't know if I want to learn about asbestos removal myself.
So the
This is-
We're also
removal,
interested.
so New York state law, like every state's different. You can do some of it online for asbestos removal, and then it is an in-person class that you have to do too. And they
Yeah.
put like a whole workshop, teach you how to do the removal and all this stuff. I want nothing to do with abatement. I just do the inspections. I don't want to touch abatement.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay,
no, this
makes sense.
it's. I mean,
Makes sense.
honestly, I think you could make a killing with an asbestos removal company in Manhattan, man.
Yes,
It's ridiculous
there's a
what they do,
ton
man.
of government contracts available for it
Yeah.
too.
Mm.
I just don't want to touch it.
And a lot of old houses too.
Yeah.
Jesus. Can only
Yeah.
imagine.
Listen, for the
Yeah.
right price, I'll touch it.
Now, if you give me an environmental company that's for sale that already has all this crew in place, then I'll think about it. I just don't want to go through the process of finding everybody to do it.
All right, so let's talk about our part as real estate agents as far as when it comes to inspection, outside of just recommending inspectors and so on and so forth. How can we help as real estate agents when basically we're gonna give a referral for an inspector report, or the buyer is gonna have they're gonna hire their own inspector reports? Do we go there? What are we to do? Because a lot of the time I feel like I'm gonna use an Italian word, little phrase. I feel like a sentibelli. You're just there. You're like, okay. So what part do we play outside of maybe helping the homeowner prep or so on and so forth? So what's our part?
So that's a great question. So have your clients have a clear understanding of the process, right?
Yeah.
Make sure that they understand that cheapest does not mean best when it comes to home inspections. There are some really cheap companies out there. You don't want to go with the cheapest price. But also just have open communication, right? A lot of times, unfortunately, what happens sometimes if the client doesn't trust a real estate agent, they tell us, do not discuss anything with my agent. I don't want anything talked to them. Now,
Wow.
we have to listen to the client, and that puts us in a very awkward position. And so we have to be very vague. We don't want to be disrespectful, so we have to be vague, but we're under the legal obligation to listen to whatever the client says.
Representation, yeah.
Exactly. So, have developed a relationship with your client from the get-go of openness about how important the process is, and how clear communication with all parties is so important, because the clients like that, it actually makes our job a lot more difficult, because usually clients don't care if we send a report to the buyer's agent, right? In fact, they want the buyer's agent to know, because then when the report is done, most agents buyer's agent will then go over the report with their client and they start
Mhm.
explaining different things. And even if they don't understand it, the buyer's agent will normally reach out to us like, hey, can you help me? I just want to understand this part and be more
Right.
knowledgeable before I
Right.
call my client. We will help you. We will definitely educate you, help you how to explain it. And just that openness communication just makes the process go so smooth. And it prevents like a lot of like misunderstandings and a lot of like, you know, like you don't have to have all that additional stress too.
Yeah.
Mm.
You know what I find easy too is after an inspection, just ask the inspector themselves,
Mhm,
what did you find? What was a major? What was a minor?
mhm,
That we can actually go over real quick. Because honestly, as you said, if I'm going over that report, if I see a GSCFI, plug, or if I see caulking, or if I see something, I'm like, wait a minute, I don't remember them talking
Yeah.
about this. I'd rather them trying to explain it then,
right,
what's
right.
going on, because it's much easier that way.
Right.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
great point about that too is the inspector is going to go over the major issues. We don't really spend a lot of time going over the smaller stuff.
Hmm.
Like, it depends every house the issues change and the whatever's big and small changes with every house
I
too.
mean, you do because
Right.
I've had like, I had some old houses where the price is reflected. We know it needs work. We know, and there is no GFI nowhere near
Mhm.
bathrooms and stuff. And I remember seeing this inspector going over, like telling the buyer, "You need the GFI," and I'm like, "This is a gut reno house," and I'm
Yeah.
like, what are we talking about here?"
That was
It's
my house.
like, yeah, that seller is 95 years old. It's not happening. We're not putting a GFI, before contract is, we're not. And in fact, and I'm hearing this inspector, and I didn't want to be disrespectful, and it's like, okay, you
Yeah.
know. So
And
Those.
he was overzealous,
yes.
they sometimes do that for
And
for
that's
no
what I
reason.
try to tell our guys. Like every house has its own story
Yes.
and we're here to put this story together. That doesn't mean the deficiencies or the issues make it across the board. Like a GFCI for one house might be a bigger issue if it's like built last year and there's no GFCIs. You know what I
Right,
mean?
that's the problem. Yeah, sure. Yeah, because it's not up to code. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Of
Yeah.
course.
So Victor had actually mentioned something. I don't know if Bridget, you
The
would
lead
know
paint.
about this. Yeah, but
Yeah, I
Yeah.
actually saw that too.
what
It's
about
funny.
the new lead paint issues and regulations that New York has passed? Do you
I'm
have any
working on getting my
information?
license on lead paint right now because
And what
it's
is it
a
exactly that they're doing?
I wouldn't even know
Okay.
yet. We haven't touched lead paint. The only thing that we've done is like you can actually buy these at Home Depot. We've done these
Oh,
type where it's just like especially in condominiums, sometimes we get hired by the board just to test if areas that they're going to be painting or where there's kids if there's lead paint. So we'll take these little testers and we'll check. But it's not using our license or we don't have a license yet for lead. So we are working on that. I wouldn't be able to tell you what the law is for lead paint. But there's a few different ways to test for lead paint.
mm,
And I've put one inspector through the training so far. Now I have to do it so I can figure out how to put that whole business together. So that's
wow.
Right.
yeah. I'd
I
love to answer
looked
it
I
when I
looked
know
a little
more.
bit. I looked deeper, and actually will consult with Victor directly and look deeper. Which brings us, since we were talking about co-op, and I think we were getting to close to an hour, which is great. I mean, this went really quick.
Yeah.
Are inspections for co-op units recommended?
All big
Yes.
condos.
We
And like
find
condos, yes, yeah,
Yeah, we
because
find
co-ops,
issues.
yeah,
Yeah. We find issues all the time. A lot of these buildings, sometimes they have older electrical, and sometimes there's fuse boxes, like actual, like like it looks like a coin in the
Yeah,
panel. Those are
the
outdated
fuses.
electrical. Yeah, they can't handle modern electricity either. Like if you have all this, we're in the day and age of like TVs everywhere and Google Homes and all this electric
Right.
everywhere, and a lot of this can't handle that. We find a lot of plumbing issues sometimes. um Not really so much structural because we're not really seeing the structural parts of it. But by all means, we do a lot of high rise, really expensive, apartments in Manhattan for for people,
Yeah.
and we always recommend it because no matter what, it gives people the opportunity to see what's going on. We've had
Yeah.
$5 million apartments where none of the appliances work or there's no hot
Oh my
water
god.
happening
Right.
in the plumbing, and it's $5 million. Like, how does that happen?
How do you, but you can't have access to, for some insurance reason. I don't know if you covered for that. I know some buildings won't let vendors go into any mechanical rooms or roof for that matter.
They most of the time never let us.
Right.
So we're inspecting what we have access to, but some of these buildings they have their own hot water heater in the unit or their own
Yeah.
HVAC units in the unit. So anything we have access to, we will do. And in rare cases, like I mean rare, will they give us access to the roof if there's like a compressor on the roof or something like that. But it's not
Mhm.
common, just like you said, Gigi. It is not common to get that for liability purposes. The building
Yeah.
is trying to protect themselves. There's been, I not us, but there's actual people that have gotten access, and then some of them like, do something that they're not supposed to.
Mhm.
So there's a reason
Yeah.
behind why we don't get access.
You know
Okay.
what's
So
becoming
anything
common
for the
now is
condo, anything that is outside the walls and things that belong to the shareholder, um, yeah, I guess you can inspect and stuff. You can see underneath the sink. You can have an
Yeah.
idea
absolutely.
of the plumbing that is coming
Mhm.
out. Actually, it makes sense. It
So,
makes sense.
Bridget, what I'm finding buyers are actually asking for a home inspection, but at the same time, you mentioned something as far as the fuses. What I'm also finding out from a lot of the inspectors as well is that even the ones that are switched, some of those are old as well,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Because the buildings are like 1950s or 60s, right? So,
Federal Pacific and Stablock panels are one of those brands.
okay,
So if you guys see a panel that's Federal Pacific and Stablock, the breakers look very different. They kind of like have like a red label on them.
okay,
Hmm.
So they look very different than the normal breakers. Those are known, and any inspection company always writes them up, because what happened with the company is back in the day they weren't tripping the way they should have, and they caused some house fires. I don't know how
mhm.
many house fires exactly,
I'm gonna have to
but
look into my panel in my car.
yeah, yeah,
That's exactly
and
what I need to
and
do
they
later.
started
Yeah.
house fires. So there was actually a fund that was made for this company of people who had these panels. I don't know if there's still money in that fund, but the fund was made because of such a massive lawsuit, and the company eventually went out of business too. So those different brands that we see because of just a history with them, we always put in the summary no matter what. And the other issue is insurance companies. If insurance company finds out that that brand is in the house, then they will not cover that unit or house or whatever it is. They cause an issue with insurance too.
What
Guys,
are
I
those
think we
brands
need
again?
to acquire a golden chicken nugget little GIF to put on
Yes,
screen because we
I
had
agree.
so many nuggets right now.
I
That's
agree.
amazing. Wow.
Bridget, what are the name of those panels one more time?
So Federal Pacific Stablock panels. It's the same brand. There's a few others too. I could get you a list of them, but that's the most common one that we see in New York or New York City, Long Island.
Wow.
Nice,
Amazing.
nice. Yeah,
I
and have
think we
you? I mean,
covered
as
it
far as
all. Yeah.
this, yeah, we'll end it up right here, pretty much. With the new thing about stoves turning into electric, was there any other people actually asking those kind of questions? Should they do it? Should they not do it? Or
I'm sorry, Israel. I didn't hear you. You broke
Yeah,
up.
you were coming in and out.
as far as electric stoves and gas stoves, have you ever got anybody just asking, "Hey, should we? Do you think we should do that, or we not do that, or
Switch, do you mean when you have
yeah,
electric switch to gas or vice
yeah,
versa?
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I heard, I'm not sure if this is true or not, but I heard that gas is not going to be as readily available in the next few years. Like the
Interesting.
gas lines. I'm not sure if that's I don't know if that's true or
Well,
not. So
you
don't
Right,
know,
right, right.
but I love cooking with gas, but it's also like very stressful, because if you have
right.
a gas leak, then you may not know, but the gas that's coming from the city, they put an additive into the
Recognize it.
gas.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep, so that it smells like rotten egg. So if you smell that, you're not
You know
supposed
it's
to smell
leaking.
that, so you know it's
Yeah.
leaking. So look out
Yeah.
for these things, be very aware. I went into
I mean, yeah.
my gas closet where my meter is. I smelt rotten eggs, called the gas company, and it was leaking, and they fixed it.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And
Bridget,
I
we're about
think,
to.
Yeah, I
I'm
mean
sorry, go ahead,
electrical. I
Gigi.
know in Europe, they cook a lot with induction plates, and those work really really fine. And especially
Nice.
with
Yeah.
the problems with Ukraine, all those gas pipelines going through
Mm.
Europe. Yeah, I think we probably all over. It's going to be a worldwide thing where it's going to be more electrical for cooking,
Well, I
and we
think
just have to get used to it.
I think
Yeah.
even in Florida too, like in Florida, they don't have natural gas lines flowing through unless like you're, I guess, in the city area. But like for the
Mhm.
most part,
Yeah.
I think it's pretty cool only because if we're switching over to solar panels, then why not? You know what I mean? It'll be less expensive to use it if you have panels. But I know my mom was the same way. She
Loves
loved cooking
cooking
with
with
gas,
yeah.
but now they moved to Florida and they have they were thinking about installing a propane tank
Mhm.
and running the pipelines to the stove,
Wow.
but
That's
then they
what we
got
had in
solar
Florida.
panels.
We had a
Yeah.
propane tank, and then we had
Or
gas.
look at good induction plates. I'm telling.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm cooking when I go to Europe. I'm cook. I still heavily cook, and I use induction plates. My and they work really really well. You can adjust them
Yeah.
as well.
You
The
get
good ones.
accustomed to
No,
it.
it's not the electrical coil that you see on those American stove. It's just a whole different system.
Induction's come
better.
a long way,
Yeah,
definitely.
True.
yeah.
Yeah.
So as we're wrapping this up, Bridget, thank you so much.
Oh my
Let
God,
us
it was
know
amazing.
where they can reach you. How can contact you? Let us know everything so they can actually say, "Hey, I need you." Bridget.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you can find me on social media. My Instagram handle is bam_0622. Our business number is 516-591-3262. And our email is Nassau, NASSAU.
I'll put it in the comments.
Yeah, at
Yeah,
theinspectionboys.com. So whatever you guys need, whatever questions, I'm here.
no problem.
Thank you so much,
Thank you
Bridget.
so
It was
much.
Thank you,
amazing.
guys.
All right.
A lot
Thank
of
you
golden
for
nuggets on
yes.
this.
Thank you for coming over.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Top of the
Awesome.
hour. All right.
Top of the
Get ready
hour.
for those open houses this weekend. Let's get
Yo.
moving.
So shout out to our MVP. Who's our MVP, Gigi? Come on. I know
It's
you know
always
the answer to this.
Victor. Come on.
We need to get Victor on. I'm gonna say it now
I
for the
know.
fourth
All right.
time
Because
Victor
he
clearly
doesn't
has a
wanna go
lot
on
to
screen.
say.
He doesn't want to go on
Yeah.
screen, and he wants
Well,
to just.
Yo, you know what?
wants to,
You know what we could do for him? Probably put it in a mouse hat, or something. Just
A brown paper bag over
brown
his
paper
head.
bag. We'll just, we'll put him
And
on.
then we
He has a
bring
lot
him
of
on.
information to get it there. We'll make it happen. We're going to make it happen.
Yeah.
Victor,
We'll give
Brett
him a
brown
mask, a
paper bag.
Nacho Libre mat, face mask.
Oh, Nacho Libre mask. Word.
All right, guys.
So,
Thank you so much,
Olivia
Bridget.
said thanks for this.
Oh,
Appreciate it.
hi,
Olivia, thanks for tuning in.
All right.
guys.
Till
Thank
next
you
time,
so
guys.
much, Brigitte.
Have a great
Nice
weekend.
seeing you
Stay
again.
productive.
Bye.
Take
Bye.
care, everybody.
Bye.